Hello. Today we have a new story on our Stories of the Big City channel. Listen and like if you like the story. Subscribe so you don't miss new stories. And we're starting.
Galina, the owner of half the real estate empire, came to the cemetery, as she did every year, to mourn her only son. But as she approached the marble tombstone, she saw the unthinkable. A woman in rags and a dirty little girl were touching the sacred grave. Galina was about to call the police to have them removed. But when the girl turned and whispered 3 forbidden words, the millionaire felt her heart skip a beat. This discovery at the grave would change her fate forever. It was 10 o'clock on a gray, rainy Tuesday. The sky over Moscow seemed to reflect what Galina felt inside, a cold, eternal, silent storm. Galina stepped out of her armored BMW. Roman, her driver, a strong man, ran over to open a black umbrella, but she barely noticed him. Her red-soled shoes, which cost more than an average family earned in 6 months, crushed mercilessly into the mud. She didn't care about getting dirty. Today was the anniversary. 5 years. 5 cursed years since Julian, her only son, her pride, had died in a motorcycle accident. "Wait here, Roman. I want to be alone," Galina ordered. Her voice tolerated no objections. It was the voice of a woman accustomed to buying entire buildings with one phone call, yet unable to buy a single extra minute of life for the one she loved most. She walked down the main alley of the Novodevichy cemetery. Only the rich and influential were buried here, those who believed money could make death more comfortable. The Belov family mausoleum loomed at the end of the path, a structure of white Italian marble, surrounded by stone angels crying tears of rain. But when Galina looked up, she suddenly froze. She felt an icy hand squeeze her stomach. Who? Who is there? It wasn't the gardener. Not a distant relative. It was a stain of poverty in her spotless sanctuary. A young woman, dressed in a threadbare gray woolen sweater and a long, shabby skirt, was kneeling before Julian's tombstone. Next to her, a little girl, no more than 4 years old, was playing with pebbles on the wet ground. Indignation rose in Galina's throat like acid. How had security allowed this? She paid a fortune for maintenance precisely so she wouldn't see the poverty of the outside world, especially not here, in the only place where she could be vulnerable. "Hey!" Galina shouted, quickening her pace. The click of her heels echoed loudly on the wet stones. The kneeling woman flinched. She turned around quickly, her wide eyes filled with panic. Her face was exhausted, with deep dark circles under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and chronic hunger, yet there was a sad beauty in her features. The little girl quickly hid behind her mother, clutching the faded fabric of her skirt. "What do you think you're doing?" Galina approached them, out of breath from anger rather than effort. "Leave immediately. This is private property." The poor woman stood up, trembling. Her hands were red from the cold and stained with earth. "Sorry, madam. I didn't mean to disturb. We just tidied up a little," the woman said in a quiet voice, bowing her head in submission. Galina looked at the grave. Indeed, the dry leaves blown by the wind had been neatly removed. But this didn't calm her rage, it only fueled it. Seeing these dirty hands touching the name of her son, Julian Belov, engraved in gold, felt like a desecration. "Tidied up?" Galina laughed cruelly. "Do you think I need someone like you to clean my son's grave? I have staff for that. Staff who bathe and wear uniforms. What did you want? To steal flowers? To take the bronze vases to sell for a few rubles? No." The woman looked up for the first time, dignity flashing in her eyes. "I would never steal anything, madam. I swear to God." We just brought this. The woman pointed to the base of the tombstone. There, amidst the cold marble, lay a small wildflower, a simple daisy of the kind that grows in sidewalk cracks, placed in an empty, clean yogurt cup serving as a makeshift vase. The contrast was cruel. A cheap plastic cup against Italian marble. A flower picked from the street against bouquets of imported roses that Galina held in her hands. "Take this trash away immediately," Galina whispered, feeling the surrealism of the situation. "This isn't a dump. Leave before I call security and you are arrested for trespassing on private property." The little girl, who had been silent until then, peeked out from behind her mother. Her hair was messy, and her sneakers were too big, probably donated. But her eyes... Galina felt a shiver. The girl was staring at her intently. Not with fear, but with curiosity. "Mom, is she the evil grandmother?" the girl asked with that cruel innocence only children have. The silence that followed was heavier than the marble tombstone. The girl's mother turned pale as a sheet and gently covered the child's mouth. "Masha, don't say that." "Sorry, madam, she doesn't understand what she's saying." "We are leaving, we are already leaving." The woman hurriedly crouched to pick up the yogurt cup and the flower, trying to erase any trace of her presence. Her hands shook so much that water spilled onto her own leaky shoes. "Wait," Galina said. The word escaped her lips before her brain could process it. The girl's phrase hit Galina's chest like a hammer. Evil grandmother. Galina was many things. She was tough. She was cold. She was demanding. Employees called her the Iron Lady behind her back, but no one called her a grandmother. Julian had died unmarried, without children. The Belov line had ended with him on that wet road 5 years ago. "What did you say to this girl?" Galina asked, taking a step closer. Her tone was no longer a scream but a quiet, dangerous threat. "Who are you, scammers? Did you stalk my life to come here and extort money with made-up stories?" The woman, who had already picked up the girl to run away, stopped. Her eyes filled with tears. "We don't need your money, Mrs. Belova. I know who you are. Everyone knows who you are. But you don't know who I am. And that is better. Come, Masha." The woman turned and walked quickly toward the side exit used by the staff. "Roman!" Galina shouted toward the main entrance, though the driver was too far to hear. With trembling hands, she pulled out her phone, intending to call security to detain them at the exit. No one turned their back on Galina Belova, especially after such insane hints. But then something happened that stopped Galina's finger on the screen. The girl, sitting on her mother's shoulder, raised her small hand and waved to the grave. "Bye-bye, Papa Angel," the baby shouted in her high-pitched voice, and then began to hum. It wasn't just any song, not a pop melody from the radio. It was a simple, repeating melody, a specific humming. "Hushaby, hushaby, the fox goes to sleep, the night is here." Galina's phone fell to the ground with a dull thud. The world seemed to spin. The sound of the rain faded. She heard only that humming in her head. That song. That silly, made-up melody. Galina was transported back 25 years. Julian was 5, and he couldn't sleep. She had made up that silly melody one night when he had a fever. They had never written it down. Never sang it in front of anyone else. It was their secret. A mother and son secret. Julian used to hum it when he was nervous, even as an adult, when he thought no one was listening. How could this ragged girl know the secret lullaby of her dead son? "Stop." Galina's scream was heart-wrenching. It wasn't an order. It was a plea disguised as a command. The woman stopped about 20 meters away. She didn't turn around. She stood frozen in the rain, hugging the girl tightly, as if to protect her from a bullet. Galina ran as she hadn't in many years. Forgetting decency, forgetting her bad knees and designer shoes. She caught up and grabbed the woman by the arm. The wet sweater felt rough under her perfectly manicured fingers. "Look at me," Galina panted, her makeup running in the rain. "Where did you get that song? Speak." The poor woman turned slowly. She was crying, her tears mixing with the rain. "He sang it," the woman whispered, her voice breaking. "He sang it to my belly when she wasn't born yet. He said it was the song his mother sang to him to scare away monsters." Galina felt short of breath. She pressed a hand to her chest. "Julian," she croaked. "You knew Julian?" The woman nodded, lowering her gaze in shame. "I worked in a bakery near his office. He came to the bakery every morning. Nobody knew about us, madam. He was afraid of you." "Afraid of me?" Galina stepped back as if slapped. "Afraid of me?" "He said you would never accept a waitress who hadn't finished school, that you had plans for him, marriages with partners' daughters. So we saw each other in secret." Galina looked at the girl, at Masha. Up close, she saw it now. It wasn't just the eyes. It was the shape of the chin. That small dimple, characteristic of the Bellows. She frowned her forehead in exactly the same way Julian did when he was focused. Galina couldn't finish the sentence. It was too big, too incredible. "She was born 7 months after the accident," the mother said, clutching the girl to her chest. "When Julian died, I was left alone. I lost my job because of pregnancy complications. I lost my apartment. I lost everything. Why didn't you come to me?" Galina asked, a mix of horror and confusion in her voice. "I'm rich. I could help. This is my blood." The woman gave a sad, bitter smile. "I did come, madam. I came to your mansion a week after the funeral, with my 3-month belly. Don't you remember?" Galina frowned, searching her memory, clouded by the pain of those days. She vaguely remembered people at the gate. So many people. The guard. The woman continued. "I told him I was carrying Julian's child. He called on the intercom, and you answered." Galina's heart beat faster. "What did I say?" "You said, 'Tell this swindler to get lost. Julian is dead. And now all the rats are scurrying for cheese. If she doesn't leave, release the dogs.'" Galina covered her mouth with her hand. She remembered saying something like that. She had been blinded by grief, pumped full of tranquilizers, unable to see the world. In those days, she had driven away dozens of people. She had never imagined. Never thought. "I thought you wouldn't even notice me," the woman said quietly. "So I swore my daughter would never suffer from your contempt. We survived as we could. We cleaned houses, washed dishes. But today Masha wanted to see her dad. She knows he is here." Reality hit Galina like a concrete slab. She had a granddaughter. A granddaughter living in absolute poverty while she lived alone in a 20-room mansion surrounded by cold luxury. She had called her granddaughter's mother a rat. She was ready to throw her own blood out of the cemetery like garbage. Galina looked at the girl's torn shoes. At her little hands, red from the cold. At the yogurt cup with the wildflower. That flower was worth more than all the wreaths and vases she had bought over 5 years. Because this flower was pure love, not a sense of duty. Let me see her, Galina said. Her voice trembled. She was no longer the owner of an empire, she was a lonely, elderly woman facing a miracle. She dropped to her knees in the mud, not caring about her 500,000-ruble Chanel suit, bringing herself to the girl's level. "Hello, Masha," she said, trying to smile through her tears. The girl looked at her with disbelief, then turned to her mother for approval. The mother, despite everything, gave a slight nod. "Hello," said the girl. "You have sad eyes, like my mom." Galina let out a sob that died in her throat. "Yes, my love. I was sad for a long time. But..." At that moment, a loud noise interrupted the scene. The cemetery guard, a tall, muscular man, ran up with a baton. Roman, the driver, followed behind. "Mrs. Belova," the guard shouted. "I'm sorry. I saw on the cameras that these people were bothering you. Get out of here, you filthy." The guard raised his hand to roughly grab Masha's mother. "Don't touch her." Galina's scream was so furious that the guard stopped abruptly, nearly slipping in the mud. Galina slowly stood up. Her posture changed. She was no longer a woman crushed by grief. Now she had a purpose. Her dull eyes sparkled with cold, calculating, and deadly anger. "But, madam," the guard stammered. "These are beggars, they are dirtying." "The madam is this woman," Galina said, pointing firmly at Masha's mother. "My daughter-in-law. And this girl is my granddaughter. The only heir to the Belov fortune." The guard opened his mouth but made no sound. Roman dropped his umbrella. "If you yell at them again or look at them with contempt," Galina continued, approaching the guard until he could smell his own fear, "I will make sure you not only lose your job but never find work again, not even as a scavenger in this city. Do you understand?" "Why, yes, madam." "Sorry, madam." Galina turned to the weeping woman and to Masha. "Roman," she ordered without looking back. "Open the car door. They are coming with us." "Where?" Masha's mother asked in fear. "Madam, we don't have suitable clothes. We can't." Galina took off her cashmere coat, worth more than a small car, and draped it over the wet woman's shoulders. Then she took off her silk scarf and wrapped little Masha in it. "Home," Galina said. For the first time in 5 years, the word didn't sound empty. "We are going home. We have a lot to talk about, and 5 years of silence to make up for." Galina took the girl's hand. It was cold and rough, but when Masha's little fingers squeezed hers, Galina felt an electric shock. It was the same feeling she had when she first held Julian's hand. They got into the car, but Galina didn't know the real test was just beginning. Bringing them to the mansion would start a war with her partners, with her own distant relatives hoping to inherit her fortune, and it would reveal Julian's secrets, secrets even the girl's mother didn't know. As the car pulled away, Galina saw in the rearview mirror a figure watching from afar, hiding behind a tree. Someone else knew about the girl, and that someone was displeased. The trip to the Belov mansion was a journey between two worlds. Inside the armored BMW, air conditioning and the smell of new leather. Outside, a gray, rainy city rushing by. Galina watched her guests from the opposite seat. The mother, who said her name was Paulina, kept her head down, clutching her worn bag as if it held diamonds. Little Masha, exhausted, fell asleep on her mother's lap, leaving a small dirt stain on the cream upholstery worth 1.5 million rubles. Roman looked nervously in the rearview mirror. "Madam, I should warn Mrs. Larissa we are bringing guests." The name Larissa made Galina frown. Larissa was her niece, Julian's cousin. Since her son's death, Larissa and her husband Kirill had settled into the company like vultures, waiting to inherit everything. "I don't need permission to enter my own house, Roman," Galina replied coldly. "If Larissa has a problem, remind her who signs her checks." The car drove through the huge wrought iron gates. For Paulina, this wasn't a home, it was a frightening palace. White columns, laser-cut gardens, and a fountain the size of a town square. "My God," Paulina whispered. Julian said it was big, but... Julian hated this house, Galina said with a sincerity that surprised herself. He said it was a museum, not a home. When they got out, the contrast was cruel. 3 staff members in impeccable uniforms came out to greet the owner. But when they saw Paulina in her leaky boots wrapped in cashmere, and the dirty girl, their professional faces twisted in poorly concealed disgust. "Martha!" Galina called. She was a strict woman who had worked in the house for 30 years. "Prepare the state guest room, and bring hot food immediately, soup, chicken, fresh fruit. Everything." Martha looked Paulina up and down, lingering on the mud on her feet. "Madam, the state guest room? The one for diplomatic visits?" Martha lowered her voice, full of indignation. "These people will bring lice. We should take them to the servants' quarters in the basement to disinfect them first." Galina felt the slap of reality. That was how the world saw her granddaughter, as an infection. "Martha," Galina's voice was a deadly whisper. "That girl has more right to be here than you or I. If I hear the word contempt again, you'll be out on the street without severance. Understand? Prepare the bathroom in my bedroom. I will handle them myself." The staff scattered like ants. Galina led Paulina and Masha upstairs, past oil portraits of Belov ancestors. Paulina looked around in fear, afraid to touch the walls. Entering the master bathroom, a marble space with gold taps, bigger than Paulina's entire apartment, the young mother burst into tears. "What's wrong?" Galina asked with alarm. "Are you in pain?" Paulina shook her head, sobbing, lowering sleepy Masha onto the fluffy rug. "We just haven't had hot water for months, madam. Masha washes with cold bucket water." Seeing this, "It's too much." Galina felt her heart break. She turned on the taps, and steam began to fill the room. "Come here, let's drive this cold out of your bones." What happened in the next hour was a transformation. While Galina washed the girl's tangled hair with jasmine shampoo, she discovered the scars of poverty. Masha had insect bites on her arms. She was too thin, her ribs showed. But Galina saw something else. As the water washed away the grime, the resemblance became undeniable. "She has a mole," Galina said, gently touching the girl's right shoulder. Julian had the exact same mole. "Yes," Paulina answered, washing her hands in the sink. Julian called it an angel's kiss. Galina looked at Paulina. Clean, without makeup and exhaustion, she was a beautiful woman. But in her eyes was deep sadness. "You need to know the truth, Paulina," Galina said, handing her Egyptian cotton towels. "The whole truth." "Why didn't Julian tell me?" "I understand he feared my reaction, but hiding a pregnancy, a daughter. That's not like him. He loved children." Paulina wrapped herself in a towel and sat on the edge of the huge tub. Masha played with foam, ignoring the adults. "It wasn't just fear of your rejection, madam," Paulina admitted, lowering her voice. "It was fear of them." "Them?" Galina frowned. "Who are you talking about?" "Julian discovered something in the company a few weeks before he died. Some records, dangerous partners. He told me that if anyone found out he had a weakness, a woman and a child, they would use us to pressure him. Galina felt a chill unrelated to the temperature. You mean barbarians? I don't know. Paulina interrupted, horror in her eyes. I never knew. But the night before he died, he came to my place. He was pale. He gave me an envelope and said, if something happens to me, don't open this. Unless it's a matter of life and death. And never, ever go near my family unless you have no choice. Do you have this envelope? Galina asked with wild energy. I did. But when I was evicted 6 months ago, many things were lost. It's hidden in a locker at the train station. It's the only thing I have left of him. Galina paced the bathroom, her business mind connecting the dots. Julian had been nervous in those last months. He had argued with his cousin Kirill. Audits hadn't added up. Madam, Paulina said. We went to the cemetery today only because Masha was sick last week. High fever. I thought I was losing her. In her delirium, she called for Papa. I promised that if she got better, I'd take her to him. I didn't need your money. I just wanted to keep a promise. Suddenly, the bedroom door flew open without a knock. Galina stepped out of the bathroom to protect Paulina's privacy. Larissa stood in the bedroom, tall, thin, wearing designer clothes, with a face that could cut glass. Beside her was her husband, Kirill, with his usual fake smile. Aunt Galina, Larissa said, crossing her arms. Martha says you've lost your mind. Is it true you brought beggars home and are washing them in your tub? These are my guests, Galina said, standing to her full height. And this is my house. I don't recall inviting you into my bedroom, Larissa. Galina, please, Kirill intervened. We understand you are lonely. Julian's anniversary makes you sensitive. But letting strangers in is dangerous. They could have diseases, be thieves, or worse, spies. This beggar, Galina said, savoring every word, is the mother of my granddaughter. The silence was absolute. Kirill's smile vanished. Larissa turned pale. What? Larissa blurted out with a nervous laugh. A granddaughter? Julian had no children. You've been deceived. It's the oldest trick. A poor woman targets a rich, lonely widow. She has Julian's eyes. Galina snapped. She has his chin. And she knows things only Julian knew. DNA test. Kirill concluded, losing his composure. I demand a DNA test immediately. I won't allow some imposter to claim company shares with a fake bastard. At that moment, the bathroom door opened. Paulina stepped out. She wore Galina's silk robe, too big for her, but she walked with new dignity. Masha was beside her in a clean towel. Paulina looked straight at Kirill. Her eyes flashed with recognition and fear. I know him, Paulina said, pointing at Kirill. Kirill stepped back, visibly nervous. I don't associate with such people. I don't know what you mean. Yes, Paulina insisted, her voice gaining strength. You came to Julian's apartment one night. I was hiding in the kitchen. You yelled at him, if you don't sign these papers, you'll regret it. Both you and your secret. Galina's face transformed. She slowly turned to Kirill like a predator locking onto prey. You knew, she whispered. You knew Julian had a woman and never told me? Kirill began to sweat. Galina, this is nonsense. She's an actress. Look at her. She's making this up for money. The girl has a mole, Galina said, ignoring him. The exact same mole as Julian's. And if you knew about his secret woman, you knew more than you admitted during the accident investigation. This is ridiculous, Larissa said, grabbing Kirill's arm. Come, Aunt. When your madness passes and you realize you've let criminals in, call us. But don't expect support when they steal your jewelry. Larissa and Kirill left the room in a hurry. But before crossing the threshold, Kirill cast one last look at Paulina. It wasn't recognition, it was a pure threat, a promise of destruction. Galina stood trembling with rage. She turned to Paulina and Masha. You were right, she panted. The danger was real. I'd been sleeping under the same roof with them. Galina went to her antique secretary desk and pulled out a checkbook. She wrote a sum and handed it to Paulina. Paulina looked at the paper. 1 million rubles. I don't need your money, madam, she repeated, offended. This isn't a gift, Galina said, her eyes shining with determination. These are operational expenses. Tomorrow morning, we go to the station to get Julian's envelope, and then we go to the best lab in the city. We will do the DNA test. Galina knelt before Masha. Not because I doubt you, my love. I know you are my blood. I feel it in my bones. We do this test to throw it in the vultures' faces. Galina stood and looked out at the rain. Enough mourning the dead, she said with a strength she hadn't felt in 5 years. Now it's time to fight for the living. Paulina, welcome to the family. Get ready. We just declared war. But Galina didn't know that Kirill was already on the phone from his car. He was calling a contact he hadn't used in 5 years. The problem has resurfaced, Kirill said. Yes, the girl and the kid are at the old woman's. Handle them. No mistakes this time, like with the motorcycle brakes. I wanted to look like a robbery gone wrong. Tonight. The Belov mansion plunged into darkness. Outside, the storm intensified. It was 2 a.m. Galina couldn't sleep. She sat in a velvet chair in the guest room, guarding Paulina and Masha. The baby slept with her mouth slightly open, one leg out from under the silk sheets, just like Julian used to. The silence evoked ghosts. Galina closed her eyes, and for a moment, the smell of rain was replaced by pipe tobacco, the cologne of her late husband, the man who built this empire with blood and iron. She remembered a night 30 years ago. Julian had a fever. Her husband had put a hand on her shoulder. The Belovs don't break, Galina. We bend, but we never break. And if someone threatens our blood, we turn into monsters to protect it. We turn into monsters. The phrase resonated in her mind. Galina looked at her wrinkled hands. Did she still have the strength to become a monster if needed? For 5 years, she had been a ghost in an empty house. But seeing this girl breathe injected adrenaline into her. She stood to fix Masha's blanket. Her fingers brushed the girl's cheek. Warm. Alive. Tangible proof that Julian hadn't left forever. Then she heard it. Not thunder. A dry branch crunching on the terrace. Then the unmistakable sound of a glass cutter on the kitchen door. Galina's heart froze, then raced. The alarm hadn't gone off. That meant only one thing: someone had the code or disabled it from inside. Galina moved fast. Her joint pain vanished under the weight of pure fear, not for herself, but for the 2 innocent lives on the bed. She went to Paulina, covering her mouth and shaking her gently. Paulina's eyes opened in panic. Shoo, Galina whispered. Quiet. Are they robbers? Paulina whispered, hugging Masha. No, Galina said, remembering Kirill's look. Worse. Hitmen. The sound of the kitchen door opening echoed like a shot. Heavy footsteps were fast. They knew where they were going. "Here," Galina said, her mind working at lightning speed. "They know which room." "What do we do? Call the police?" They cut the phone line. "My mobile is downstairs." "No time." Footsteps were on the stairs. At least 3 men. Boots hitting the noble wood. Galina ran to the large built-in wardrobe. It was unique. The house was built in turbulent times. "Help me move this," she ordered, pushing a heavy mahogany chest inside. Paulina pushed with surprising strength. Behind the chest was a small gap in the wooden panel. Galina pressed a knot in the wood. A click. The panel opened to a dark, narrow passage. The original panic room, forgotten by everyone, including Kirill and Larissa. "Get in," Galina whispered. The bedroom door burst open. 3 men in black masks rushed in with baseball bats and knives. "There," one shouted, pointing to the wardrobe where Galina was shoving Masha. "Close it," Galina ordered Paulina. "No, not without you." The attackers were 5 meters away. Galina didn't enter. Instead, she grabbed a heavy bronze vase. "Close it," she commanded like a supreme matriarch. Crying, Paulina pulled the panel from the inside. The wall closed with a thud just as the first attacker lunged at Galina. He knocked the 65-year-old woman to the floor. The vase rolled away. Galina felt sharp pain in her hip, but the instinct to protect was stronger. "Where are they?" the man growled, kneeing her chest. "We know the girl and kid are here." Galina spat in his mask. "Far away. Far from trash like you." He backhanded her. The taste of blood filled her mouth. "Search," he ordered his accomplices. Kirill said they didn't leave the house. Kirill. Confirmation. This wasn't a robbery. It was an execution. Her own nephew had sent assassins to kill a 4-year-old girl and her mother for inheritance. The rage Galina felt was volcanic. It surpassed fear and pain. One man started hitting the wardrobe walls. "Boss, sounds hollow here. Break it." Galina saw them raise bats against the panel hiding her daughter-in-law and granddaughter. She heard Masha's muffled scream. "No." Galina, finding strength from nowhere, clawed at the man's eyes. He screamed, letting go. Galina rolled to the bedside table, opened the bottom drawer, and found her husband's old pistol, a World War II relic. She didn't know if it would work. But it was this or the end of her line. The men were prying the panel open. A gloved hand reached inside. "Hey!" Galina shouted, standing up. The men turned. Galina held the gun with both hands, trembling but aiming at the leader's chest. "Step away from that door." The leader laughed. "Crazy old woman, you don't have the guts." He stepped toward her with a knife. Galina thought of Julian. Of the miserable life Paulina and Masha had lived because of her rejection. This was her second chance. God was giving her a chance to save her son through his granddaughter. The man took another step. "I said, drop the gun." The roar in the room was deafening. The gun recoiled, hitting her sore shoulder. The man stopped, surprised. He looked at his shoulder, where a red stain spread on the black fabric. He fell to his knees. The other two froze. They didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect steel in the veins of the Iron Lady. "The next one goes in the head," Galina shouted, her voice steady now. The voice of a cornered lioness. "Leave, or I kill you all." Sirens wailed in the distance. The two uninjured men looked at their wounded leader, then at Galina's shaking gun, and made a quick decision. "Let's go." They dragged the wounded man down the stairs, leaving a bloody trail. Galina aimed at the empty door for a minute until she heard a car speeding away. Only then did she lower the weapon. The panel slowly opened. Paulina came out, pale as wax, holding Masha. Seeing Galina bleeding on the floor with a gun, Paulina ran to her. "Mrs. Galina. My God, you're bleeding." Galina dropped the gun and looked at Paulina, then at Masha, who was crying silently. Galina raised a bloody hand and stroked the girl's hair. "No one," Galina gasped, tears of relief flowing, "will ever hurt you again. I swear on my son's grave." Paulina hugged the elderly millionaire. In that moment, on that cold floor surrounded by broken glass, the social barrier vanished. They were no longer a millionaire and a beggar, they were two mothers, a family forged in the fire of survival. Minutes later, police sirens flooded the room. Roman and armed officers ran in. "Roman," Galina said to the paramedics examining her. "Don't tell Kirill anything." "Not yet." Paulina looked embarrassed. "But he sent them." "They said so." "I know," Galina whispered as they bandaged her forehead. "But if we accuse him now, he'll hide, use lawyers, destroy evidence. We play his game. Let him think they failed. When he trusts he has won, we crush him." She turned to Paulina. "I need you to be strong, daughter. Tomorrow a new life begins, and the hunt begins. Are you with me?" Paulina looked at her daughter, the gun, and her mother-in-law's steely eyes. "I'm with you to the end." While Galina was taken to the hospital and Paulina and Masha to a secure hotel, Kirill answered his phone in his luxury apartment. "Is it done?" he asked. "Complications," a distorted voice said. "The old woman had a weapon. She shot the Russian. We had to abort." "Idiots." Kirill slammed his fist on the table. "Did you kill them or not?" "We heard something before we left." The old woman was talking about an envelope. Julian's envelope. "They said they are going to the station to get it tomorrow." Kirill went cold. The envelope. He had searched for it for 5 years. Proof of his embezzlement and mafia deals. If these women had it, he would lose everything. He would go to prison. Or worse, his mafia partners would kill him. "Listen carefully," Kirill said in a deadly whisper. "Forget the house. Tomorrow I want the whole team at the central station. No one leaves with that envelope. Burn the station if you have to." He hung up and smiled nervously. Aunt Galina wanted a happy family? Now she'll see what happens when you play with the owner of the board. At the hotel, it was 8 a.m. Galina looked in the mirror. She wore a cheap hat over a plaster on her forehead, faded jeans, and a baggy jacket Roman had bought. "You don't look like yourself, Mrs. Galina," Paulina said. She too had changed. "That's the point," Galina smiled. "If Kirill's men are watching the station, they'll look for a millionaire and her daughter-in-law. Not two cleaning ladies on a morning shift." Paulina straightened Galina's collar. "You need to walk differently. You walk like you own the earth. They'll spot you in a second." "How should I walk?" "Walk like you're apologizing for taking up space," Paulina said sadly. Hunched shoulders, eyes on the ground. Quick, silent steps. That's how we survive. Galina felt a lump in her throat. This lesson in survival hurt more than a blow to the head. This was the reality her granddaughter had lived for 4 years. "Teach me," Galina said humbly. For 20 minutes, the millionaire learned the art of social invisibility. Masha stayed at the hotel with Roman and guards. The farewell was heartbreaking. We will return, my love, Galina promised. They took an old taxi to the Kiev station, the place where Julian's past waited. The station was chaos. Galina felt panic in the crowd. Let go of my hand, Paulina whispered, leading her through. Don't look anyone in the eyes. They reached the lockers. Galina's heart hammered. Here they are, Paulina whispered. Two men stood near the lockers. One had his arm in a sling. It's him, Galina whispered. The one I shot. Kirill sent the whole team. Approaching was suicide. We can't get through, Galina said. If they see us, they'll kill us here. We don't use force, Paulina said, a strange glint in her eyes. We use cunning. She saw a group of homeless people sitting in a corner with cardboard and dogs. Wait here. And for God's sake, keep your head down. Galina watched Paulina approach the homeless. There were hugs, smiles. Galina felt ashamed. She had judged these people her whole life. Now they were her only hope. Paulina returned with an elderly, toothless man named Grandfather. He looked after Masha when I needed food, Paulina said. Nice to meet you, madam, Grandfather said. Paulina says you have trouble with the gorillas over there. The same ones who hurt little Masha? Yes, Galina said, swallowing her pride and shaking his dirty hand. We need to get to locker 404. Can you help? For little Masha, I'll move mountains. For free. Guys. He whistled. Chaos ensued. Two homeless men started a loud fight right in front of Kirill's men. Screams, pushing, bottles. The crowd parted. Get out of here, rats, the man with the sling shouted, moving to clear his view. Meanwhile, other homeless pushed carts full of scrap metal, creating a wall. Now! Paulina shouted. Galina and Paulina ran. They didn't run like fugitives, they glided like shadows. They reached the corridor. Locker 404 was low. Paulina pulled a rusty key from her necklace. Her hands shook. Faster, daughter, faster, Galina urged, watching the rear. The key turned. Click. The door creaked open. Inside wasn't money or jewelry, but a thick brown paper envelope and an old teddy bear. Paulina grabbed them. We got it. There they are. A scream echoed. The wounded man saw them through a gap in the cart wall. He broke through the distraction, running toward them with a silenced pistol. Run! Galina grabbed Paulina's hand. They sprinted to the bus platforms. Paulina pulled Galina toward a bus closing its doors. We don't have tickets. Galina gasped. Get on. They squeezed inside as the doors slammed, hitting Galina's shoulder. The bus pulled away. Through the rear window, they saw the gunman furiously hitting the bus side, left behind. As they sped onto the highway, Galina collapsed in her seat. She looked at Paulina, clutching the envelope, laughing and crying. For the first time, Galina saw a comrade in arms. She understood why Paulina had a strength money couldn't buy. Thank you, Galina said, squeezing Paulina's hand. You saved my life, evil grandmother. Paulina shook her hand. You saved my daughter last night. We're even, Grandma. The word grandma sounded different this time. Not an insult, but a title earned in battle. They got off in a quiet industrial area and hid in a small roadside diner. They ordered black coffee. The moment had come. Galina put the envelope on the sticky table. "Shall we open it?" she asked, afraid of what she might find. Paulina nodded. Galina tore the envelope. Inside were a flash drive and a handwritten letter dated 2 days before the accident. She recognized Julian's handwriting immediately. She raised a hand to stifle a sob. "This is for you," Paulina said. "It says, for Mom. Galina took the trembling paper. She read aloud, her voice breaking, "Mom. If you are reading this, I am gone. And if you are reading this, I hope Paulina had the courage to find you, and you had the heart to listen. I know I disappointed you. You wanted a business shark, like Dad. But I just wanted to be happy. I found that happiness in a bakery, with a woman who loves me for who I am, not for the name Belov." Tears blurred the ink. She continued, "I didn't tell you about Paulina and the child because I was afraid. Not that you'd disinherit me, I don't care about that. I was afraid you'd treat them like everything that doesn't fit your ideal world. But I was wrong. By hiding them, I endangered them. I found out Kirill is laundering money through a construction company. He uses cheap materials in the Western District buildings. They will collapse. Mom, they will kill people in an earthquake." I confronted him, and he threatened to eliminate my distractions. The flash drive has all the evidence, accounts, threats. Use it. Destroy him. But please, Mom, protect my family. Meet your granddaughter. Give her the love you had left but didn't know where to put after Dad died. You are a great woman, Mom. You just forgot how to be gentle." Galina dropped the letter. The diner was silent. "You are a great woman. You just forgot how to be gentle." That phrase hit harder than a bullet. She had spent 5 years hating the world, thinking her son died by negligence. But he died a hero, trying to protect innocence from Kirill's greed. And she, blind with pride, had left this hero's family on the street. "I'm so sorry," Galina whispered. "Forgive me for every minute of these 5 years. For the hunger, for the cold." Paulina hugged her, a real, strong hug. "Julian told me you were tough. But he also said if someone got into your heart, you'd protect your own from the devil. He was right." Galina wiped her tears, hiding the letter near her heart. She took the flash drive, squeezing it until her knuckles turned white. Her expression changed. Sadness gave way to cold, deadly determination. The Iron Lady returned, but this time with a heart. "We have evidence," Galina said, her voice commanding again. "Bank statements. Threats. Kirill wanted war? We'll give him an apocalypse." She dialed a burner phone. Not the police. The state attorney general, an old friend of her husband who had tried to clean the city for years but lacked evidence. "Alexander, this is Galina Belova. Don't hang up. I have Kirill Belov's head on a silver platter. And the real estate scandal of the decade. I need immediate witness protection for my family. Operation before nightfall. Interested?" There was a pause, then an affirmative answer. Galina hung up and looked at Paulina. "Ready to see the bad guys fall?" "I'm ready to see my daughter have a future." As they returned to the hotel with federal agents, news leaked to Belov Corp. Kirill celebrated, thinking Galina was hiding. He didn't know the flash drive was already in the prosecutor's computer, or that his Cayman accounts were frozen. "Tomorrow is the official anniversary mass at the cathedral," Galina said. "All partners, the press, Kirill will be there." "What will we do?" Paulina asked. Galina smiled, a poker player's smile. "We go to the mass. You, me, and Masha. We enter through the front door. No disguise, no fear. We let the world see the real Belov family, and the criminal. The stage was set for a public execution. Galina called her driver. Roman, call my stylists. Call the most expensive children's boutique. My granddaughter isn't going to church in rags. She will be dressed like a princess. The transformation was complete. The millionaire found her humanity. The impoverished woman found her strength. Together, they were invincible. On the morning of the Mass, the sun shone. In the hotel room, there was electric calm. No fear. Does it suit me, Grandma? Masha asked, twirling in a dark blue velvet dress with a white lace collar. You look perfect, my love, Galina said, adjusting the bow in her hair. But remember, you're a princess not because of the dress, but because you are brave like your mother. Paulina emerged in a strict black suit, elegant and fitting like a glove. Makeup hid her exhaustion, but not the sparkle in her eyes. I'm ready, she said. Galina stood in impeccable white. Galina looked at her. Today we don't mourn death. We celebrate life. And we take out the trash. You have the medallion? Paulina touched her chest, where a photo of Julian hung. Yes. Then let's go. The show can't start without the lead actresses. The cathedral was packed. Kirill stood in the front row, wiping a fake tear. Larissa checked her phone, calculating inheritance time. The priest spoke of Julian's generosity. Kirill took the pulpit. My cousin Julian was more than a partner. He was a brother. Whispers of approval. Then, the great oak doors groaned open. Sunlight flooded in. 3 figures appeared on the threshold. The click of heels on stone interrupted Kirill's speech. Clack, clack, clack. It was Galina in white, head high, leaning on a beautiful young woman's arm, who held the hand of a girl, an exact copy of Julian. Kirill went speechless. He turned pale as a corpse. Galina didn't stop. She walked the central aisle, ignoring whispers, straight to the altar. Straight to Kirill. Aunt. Kirill muttered into the mic. You're late. Who are these people? Galina snatched the microphone. She turned to the congregation. Sorry for the intrusion. My nephew spoke of honesty. I think this is the perfect moment to talk about truth. Galina is upset, Kirill tried. Galina raised a hand. I present to you Paulina, my son's wife. And Masha, my granddaughter. Julian's daughter. An explosion of exclamations. Larissa grimaced. It's a lie, she shouted. She's a swindler. Galina smiled sadly. A lie is what we lived with for 5 years. The lie that Julian died in an accident. Silence fell. You could hear a pin drop. Julian was murdered, Galina continued, staring into Kirill's horrified eyes. Because he learned defective materials were used in the Western District. Materials you bought to transfer millions offshore. Are you crazy? Kirill screamed, forgetting his role. Guards, take her out. No need for guards, Galina said. We need justice. The side doors opened. The state attorney general entered with federal agents. Kirill looked for an exit. None. Kirill Belov, the prosecutor boomed. You are under arrest for massive fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to murder Julian Belov, and attempted murder of these women last night. Chaos erupted. Cameras flashed like machine guns. Kirill tried to run but was tackled. Let me go. You don't know who you're messing with. Galina leaned down so only he could hear. I know exactly who I'm messing with, Kirill. A man who doesn't break. And a man who forgot money buys silence, but not loyalty. Your own killer sold you out this morning for a reduced sentence. They dragged Kirill out. Larissa tried to flee but was blocked. You too, madam. We have questions about your signatures on balance sheets. When the culprits were gone, a strange emptiness remained. Galina took the mic again. I know you are in shock. Many of you judge my daughter-in-law for her clothes or her background. I did too. I was the first to do it. She went down and took Paulina's hand, pulling her up. I called this woman an opportunist. I left her on the street with my granddaughter in her womb. I let my own blood starve while I lived in a golden palace. That is my sin. I will spend my life atoning for it. Tears in her eyes, Galina looked at Paulina. This woman tended my son's grave when I brought only cold flowers. She kept his memory with love, not money. She is more worthy of the name Belov than any of us. Galina took a diamond and ruby ring from her finger, a family heirloom, and put it on Paulina's hand. Welcome home. Applause started from the back. It was grandfather, the homeless man, in a borrowed suit. Then a society lady joined. Then another. Soon, the whole cathedral stood and applauded. They applauded the truth. Masha ran to her mother and grandmother, hugging them. Photographers captured the moment. 3 generations of women, united not by tragedy, but by victory. 6 months later, the Belov mansion was no longer quiet. Swings hung from the oak tree. Toys lay by the pool. Galina was in her office, no longer signing evictions. So the budget for the community center is approved? Galina asked on the phone. Yes, Mrs. Belova. The Julian Belova Foundation opens next month in Santa Cruz. Free cafeteria, kindergarten for working mothers, and legal aid for at-risk women. Excellent. Ensure the director has everything. Of course. Mrs. Paulina is very demanding. Just like you, the lawyer laughed. Galina hung up and looked out. Paulina was in the garden with architects for a new shelter. She had studied management and proved to be a natural leader with empathy. Masha ran in with dirty hands. Grandma, look! An earthworm. Galina, who once fired people for carpet stains, took the girl in her arms, not caring about her silk blouse. He's beautiful, my love. Let's put him back so he lives happily. Grandma, are we going to see Papa Angel today? Yes, we are. At the cemetery, it was quiet. The marble mausoleum stood, but now surrounded by hundreds of field daisies planted in fertile soil. Galina, Paulina, and Masha sat on a picnic blanket. No sadness. Just peace. Masha danced between the graves, laughing, celebrating life. Galina looked at the tombstone. Julian Belov. Beloved son, husband, and father. The last 2 words were added a month ago. You know, Paulina, Galina said, watching her granddaughter. I always thought my legacy would be money, buildings, a name. And now? Paulina asked, resting her head on Galina's shoulder. Now I know my legacy is this. She pointed to Masha dancing in the golden sun. My legacy is that I learned to love in time. Thank you for not giving up on me, Paulina. Thank you for bringing me back to life. Paulina smiled and took her hand. Thank you, Grandma, for giving us a future.
Friends, if this story touched your heart, Please hit the like button and subscribe. We share powerful, emotional stories every single day. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in the hero's place? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Tap the bell icon so you never miss an upload, and stay tuned. See you in the next video.